Hello, thank you for joining me. Today is the anniversary of the death in 1965 of Dr. Albert Schweitzer, uh, a Lutheran pastor from France who started a mission hospital in West Africa, but is also gifted in many other ways. Not a very eminent theologian, a very gifted organist and musicologist, and a qualified doctor. And he was somebody who, because of his humanitarian work, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1952. A group of journalists were visiting him in his mission hospital in Gabon, and an incident occurred which seems to me to summarize his approach to life. He was getting elderly at this point, and it was a very hot day. And suddenly he disappeared from the journalists as they walked up this very steep hill to part of the hospital. And eventually they realised that he'd gone to help this African woman who was carrying a huge bundle of wood up the hill. And when he returned, they said to him, "What made you go and do that? You're 85, and it's a very hot day." And he said, "Nobody should be expected to carry a burden like that alone." And the wider implications of that struck me because there's a sense in which we're here to support each other. And if we have a burden that's weighing us down very heavily, we have a right to seek help from those around us who no doubt would be only too willing to support us. And so often it's our own lack of humility, our own lack of nerve, our own desire to retain our privacy. Any one of these things could stop us seeking the help which actually would enable us to share the burden and help and get some help from other people in carrying it. And of course, the other way around, sometimes we're the one who can offer to help. Even though, as in the case of Albert Schweitzer, we might do so at some cost to ourselves. But we can, if we're sensitive, suggest to someone who we can see is carrying some kind of burden that they might want some support. It is difficult because sometimes people really don't want help, and sometimes people need to be persuaded or cajoled into accepting it, and we need to think carefully and lovingly about what is going to be the most useful and most well-received help that we can offer. It's helping someone else lovingly and thoughtfully is a very challenging thing sometimes, especially if they're reluctant initially. But today it's worth keeping our eyes open to see if there's anybody around us who's carrying a burden that we could help them carry. And certainly if we're carrying one, to make sure that if we think there's even the remotest chance that someone might be able to lessen the burden of it, to make sure that we ask them.